Welcome back to the Kitoroki channel. My Hero Academia is back, baby, with its 7th season, and boy did this first episode not disappoint. You already know, with a new season must come an anime versus manga video breaking down the latest My Hero Academia episode with all of its Easter eggs, references, and of course, in this video especially, breaking down, explaining Star and Stripes' absolutely godly quirk, New Order. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Season 7 breakdowns. Enough said, let's get into the wild ride that is My Hero Academia Season 7 Episode 1, titled In the Nick of Time, a Big Time Maverick from the West. Right off the bat, the title of the episode is the same as Volume 34's first chapter, that being Chapter 329. A Maverick, by definition, means that they are unconventional and independent, and do not think or behave in the same way as other people, which perfectly describes America's #1 pro hero, Star and Stripe, as she was the only hero in the world that couldn't wait to get the green light from her country to go aid Japan, straight up leaving America to throw hands with Shigaraki. Also, Star and Stripe being called a Maverick in the episode's title, as well as her being on top of a literal American fighter jet, is a heavy reference to the 1986 film Top Gun, and Tom Cruise's character Pete Mitchell, an American naval pilot whose call sign is Maverick. To start off the episode, we have an anime-only scene of Deku waking up at UA, giving us a sort of mini recap of what happened in Season 6, and we get to see Class 1A. This, of course, was needed for the sole reason that in the Star and Stripe arc, Deku and the gang don't make an appearance at all for it. Funny enough, in this anime-only section, Deku does say, "I'm back," which to me felt like the anime's way of breaking the fourth wall to say My Hero Academia is back. The opening for the first half of the season is called Tagatame, done by Toru Kitajima. For those with good ears, if the artists sound very familiar, that's because he's the same artist that made Unravel, Tokyo Ghoul's first opening. And man, did he give us a banger with Tagatame, giving us a very hopeful vibe for our heroes. In the opening itself, we do get to see the actual face of Invisible Girl for the first time in the anime. Mirko shows up as well, giving us a glimpse at her new prosthetic leg and arm, showing us that won't be stopping her from joining the upcoming war. All of Class 1A running and escorting Deku across the battlefield, protecting him as he is the key to winning this war, and Deku occasionally high-fiving some of them as he makes his way to fight Shigaraki, was such a nice touch, as this shows Deku being able to rely on his friends and isn't in this war alone. A stark contrast from Season 6, where he originally planned on taking on Shigaraki and All for One by himself. This was such a beautiful opening. After the opening, we get a very interesting anime-only scene showing Star and her crew prior to heading overseas to Japan. Here we see Star's crew watching a world-breaking news live broadcast on the current state of Japan. This also pretty much acts as a mini recap of what happened after the war, with the Tartarus prison break and the many jailbreakers now roaming the ruins of Japan. But what makes this scene so good to me is that we see how this reporter is an American, showing us that news outlets from around the world are able to get into Japan to report the news, while the dispatch of heroes to aid Japan needs approval first. This rightfully ticks off what looks to be two civilians who have to live in the current state of Japan, shutting down the broadcast after telling the world if they are having fun watching someone else's problems, as the rest of the world is in a more comfortable state, not having to live in ruins and a destroyed hero society. These people are going through it, and it shows. While Ethan of the crew does make a great point on how after the incident in Japan, villains from around the world became more active, which happened on part of All for One, these countries, while not in the same predicament as Japan, are still in danger as a result of what happened in Japan, and those countries are going to have to weigh their own priorities against the needs of others, which is all a part of All for One's plan to isolate Japan from the world. Then the star of the show pulls up. Okay, I'm sorry, I won't do that ever again, but Stars pulls up and sees that her crew is motivated to help Japan and asks for them to take her to Japan. After this, we see All for One and the League hiding out in the cave. All for One here mentioning how All Might may have eradicated organized crime in Japan, but for other nations, organized crime crime is a different story compared to Japan is actually the first reference in the episode to the My Hero Academia 2 Heroes movie, where in the movie David Shield made the same exact point of crime rates in Japan being as low as 6% because of All Might, while most of the world hovers around 20% or worse. The added shot of Spinner and his PLF regiment all being heteromorphs sets up a huge plotline revolving around Hero Society and the discrimination against heteromorphs. Finally, we get to see the confrontation between Star and Stripe and Shigaraki. Star asks if Shigaraki is all for one, and Shigaraki responds by saying, "Good question, what am I?" This is because with Shigaraki having the original quirk of all for one transplanted in him, and him currently being 97 to 98% complete with the full transplant of the quirk, both Shigaraki and all for one's personalities blended with each other, sort of creating a whole new personality. In the volume 34 extra page, it's explained that because of this, Shigaraki's appearance with the scrap of cloth found in the cave acting as a cape, and the suit he wears in the beginning of the fight is the result of this mixture of personalities. Shigaraki, who couldn't care less about appearances, is represented through the cape, and All for One, who always looks sharp, is represented through the suit. Star's team gets a little bit of added shots and lines saying "Roger that, Bravo leader." Definitely makes this fight feel more like a coordinated team effort on Star's side, which is a good addition to the anime. On Shigaraki's side, we get an absolute stunning shot of his eyeball and an added shot of Shigaraki and All for One splitting off from each other, showing how close they are from becoming one with the transplant. And so begins the epic fight of Star and Stripe versus Shigaraki. Right off the bat, we have to explain Star's broken quirk New Order. Her quirk, after touching a target, allows her to call out the target's name and assign a new rule to it. She can only set up 2 rules at a time, so one rule will affect one target while the other will affect another or herself, like giving herself super strength, pretty much changing reality around the target. So in the episode, by touching the air, which is legit all around the world, was able to assign a rule to it, where the air in the space 100 meters in front of her will cease to exist, creating a star-shaped vacuum, taking the air out of Shigaraki's body and the affected area. Though the quirk is absolutely broken, it does have its limits, as when she assigns a new rule to a new target, it undoes a previous rule, making that previous target go back to normal. On top of that, the rules she sets can't arbitrarily involve things she hasn't touched, as she's not able to set a rule saying if the man in front of her touches the air within this set range, he dies. Only through roundabout wording, where the rule specifically affects the target she touches, in this case the air, could someone she hasn't touched get caught in the crossfire of it, like how Shigaraki being caught in the vacuum and having all of the air in his body no longer existing because he happened to be within the 100 meters where the air ceased to exist. There is also a cap on how crazy she can get with the rules, like if she gives herself super strength, there is a limit to how strong she can be. Even Stars states that it's impossible to have power as strong as All Might's by using her quirk on herself. New Order is also a lot less effective on living targets, as when calling the name of a target with a sense of self, Stars' understanding of the target's identity has to align with their own. So as shown later in the Star versus Shigaraki fight, when she manages to land a hit on Shigaraki, believing Shigaraki sees himself as going by the identity of Shigaraki, and then assigns the order of if Shigaraki moves at all, his heart will stop, it ends up failing because Shigaraki in that moment, his understanding of himself isn't quite sure if his name is Shigaraki, All for One, or even Shimura, due to the blend of the 2 different personalities being within him, making it all hazy for him on what his true identity really is. That's why the rules are more effective on non-living things, giving her more freedom to do as she wants with the rules, as non-living things have no sense of self, such as the air or the lasers she ends up being able to hold by assigning it a new rule where she can hold them. There's no telling how deep her New Order quirk can actually affect certain living things, such as dogs either. Would her New Order quirk work on a dog when you call it by their name? who knows? Regardless of its limits, New Order is most definitely one of the most powerful quirks in all of My Hero Academia that practically redefines what a quirk can be in the series. Continuing on, we get our second reference to the My Hero Academia 2 Heroes movie when it's revealed that Star and Stripe was actually the little girl in the car saved by a young All Might, making it all connected using actual footage from the movie and the episode. After making contact with Shigaraki and New Order failing to work on him, we find out that the USA's #1 hero, Star and Stripe, aka the strongest woman around, the government strictly oversees her quirk. The particulars of how it works are highly classified, though the public does get the gist of how her power works based on her visible day-to-day heroics. This is somewhat of a social commentary on how, despite the US comes off as the land of the free, the government will always try to control what they want you to know. For a character whose quirk lets her freely change the rules, her quirk is being constantly overseen by her government. So in reality, she can't freely do as she pleases, but the fact that she pretty much defies the rules of her government anyways is what makes her truly a free American, reflecting what the people of her nation stands for. Moving on, Stars sends word to Commander Akbar. Also, we have to give credit where credit is due. The overall direction and animators for this fight went crazy this entire fight, and especially for Stars creating a kaiju-sized version of herself made of hardened air, her fist bump to the earth, a clap that dispersed the clouds, and her united hypermax output laser, Kuronos, all absolute hype at its finest. After finally getting word back from Commander Akbar, we see that Mr. Timothy Akbar's name and rank and design are references to Admiral Akbar from Star Wars Return of the Jedi. It's a trap! Akbar, as a special favor for Stars, had already informed Japan of the incoming Tiamat intercontinental cruise missiles, heading straight towards Star and Shigaraki. In the command room, we also see a neat cameo appearance from David Shield on a picture frame, along with All Might and a young Star and Stripe. The episode ends with an added shot of Star pinning Shigaraki down with the laser as the Tiamat missiles shine in the background. And I'll say, what a way to start a season. Now, this episode adapted 3 chapters, them being chapters 329, 330, and 331. I will say, after this episode, I hope all of the worries everyone had before the season dropped are finally put to rest, as the animation looks unaffected by the Your Next movie. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on My Hero Academia Season 7. Are you looking forward to the rest of the season? Are you enjoying the Star and Stripe versus Shigaraki fight so far? Let me know everything in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button down below, and if you're new to the Kitaroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Season 7 breakdowns. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.